Eldraine, a land known for its wicked power, an equally wicked ban list. It is now lost. The plane is in total chaos. An enemy, like a corrupting plague, has settled the wilds. With the help of an old friend, we tried to stop it, but we were too late. Eldraine is now Okawarida, and no one is left to save it. But there is hope for other planes still. An unlikely ally made themselves known to me, and the tide is about to turn. After all, this is a tale only we can tell.
Showtime!
What's up, Planeswalkers? How you doing? I'm your host, Moot, and today I've got a treat for you. We are taking a look at another viewer-requested commander, Balan, Wandering Knight. No, not this boring card. This card. Yes, rejoice anime enjoyers, because today's episode is, well, all about anime and swords. Balan is a 2 white and 2 colorless 3/3 cat knight that has first strike and can gain double strike once it's equipped with 2 or more artifacts. The last ability is what makes this card playable. For 1 white and 1 colorless, we can at any time equip this commander with all our equipment. So the plan is to load this kit up with as many swords as possible and lay out our opponents. Now, Planeswalkers, you know me. There's always a catch, so that is why this deck is going to be playing all the swords, yes, even the bad ones, because here at Moot, we transcended merely winning games. So with that said, if you have a commander you want featured, leave it in the comments or join our Discord. Starting off our creatures, we have Esper Sentinel, which taxes our opponent's first non-creature spell based on its power. Naturally, our equipment can make this creature have a very high power, hopefully giving us more cards. Skrelv, Deflector Might is better Mother of Runes. Reason why is because it gives hexproof, meaning auras don't actually fall off. Weathered Wayfarer can find us more lands. It is based though on our opponents having more lands, so if you do go first, sometimes it won't work. Grand Abolisher is here to shut down interaction on our turn, so hopefully our commander can connect. Knight of the White Orchid is more ramp, but it has that classic white drawback where our opponents have to have more lands. Next, Leonin Skitarii makes equipping our equipment instant speed, which is helpful when you have equipment that gives hexproof or indestructible. Lion Sash removes graveyards and grows pretty sizable quickly from that. Also, as a bonus, reconfigure creatures when they're attached to a creature are pretty safe, because if an opponent board wipes with like a destruction spell, or even like Sunfall for example, it'll only get rid of the creatures that it's attached to. They'll fall off and become creatures themselves, so it's kind of a little bonus. The only card that of course that gets around it is, you know, the dreaded Farewell. Loyal Warhound is ramp, but since the creature has vigilance, it's a good target to equip. Pure Steel Paladin is going to help us draw cards based off our equipment and then make them easier to equip once we have that Metalcraft. Saram, Senior Edificer, draws us cards every time we play equipment. Stoneforge Mystic tutors equipment and then cheats it out. Plus, we have a way to blink with Sword of Hearth and Home, so we can always get that ETB again. Cloudsteer and Kiernan is my Timmy include, because I was actually very excited for this card when it was spoiled. And naturally, like most cards, when it came out, it just flopped and no one cared and it really wasn't that good. I still want to play it though, because I do like the idea of making your creature a Platinum Angel, so I'm still going to play it and I think it's a fun card. Danitha Capuchin Paragon is keyword soup on a creature, and it's perfect for equipment since it actually discounts the equipment that you play. Lorna the Third Path is just better Reclamation Sage since we can draw cards with it, and don't forget we do have that blink. Armored Sky Hunter is a good sized body with evasion that can dig for more equipment and cheat it out, so perfect. Leonin Ambinus gives protection to all our artifacts by giving them hexproof, and importantly it's not shroud, meaning our artifact creatures can still be equipped with equipment themselves. Stone Hero Giant is a way to tutor our equipment, and with Sword and Light and Shadow it is repeatable. Lastly, Sun Titan, since majority of our deck is 3 mana cards, it's really easy to get most of our deck back. In fact, I would wager to say it's about 80% of our deck is these 3 mana cards. Now for our spells, we have Dispatch, Path to Exile, and Swords to Plowshares as our 1 mana exile. Dispatch does need Metalcraft to work, but this deck should have no problem getting there. Steel Shaper's Gift is tutor for equipment. Disenchant is a low-cost artifact or enchantment removal spell, which is recastable with Sword of Once and Future. Open the Armory is just a more expensive tutor for our equipment. Flawless Maneuver is a protection spell that becomes free if we have our commander out. Sphinx Reclamation is a very good recursion spell. because it has the flashback, but also it can hit any of our swords and it can even bring back lands in a pinch. Return to Dust is more artifact and enchantment removal, with the upside of hitting 2 cards if we play it on our turn. Farewell, the auto-include card in any deck, and it will literally save you from anything except for emblems. Open the Vaults is mass recursion that can hit our opponent's equipment if they are playing it, but mainly it hits artifacts and enchantments, so usually this card won't miss. Mass Calcify is a nice trick for our deck to pull off since most of our creatures are in fact white, except for the mites that we make with living equipment, but there's very few of those cards, so it really shouldn't matter. Now, for artifacts and enchantments, we'll start off with the ramp. Soul Ring to cheat our commander out early, Arcane Signet and Marble Diamond as generic mana rocks, Everflowing Chalice since we have a way to proliferate, Cold Steel Heart since it has a anime version, Mind Stone since it turns into card draw in an emergency, and lastly for the ramp we have Smothering Tide for treasure tokens and Throne of Eldraine that also draws cards later. Next we have Sigarda's Aid to flash out equipment and cheat it onto creatures, Forge Anew to recur equipment, let us attach it at any time during our turn, and then cheat it onto creatures as well. Does a whole bunch, so it's a pretty good card. Now the rest of the cards are just equipment. First we have Basilisk Collar because it gives Death Touch and the lifelink is just a bonus. Colossal Hammer ends games quickly since our commander can cheat its attached cost. Golem Skin Gauntlets cares about other equipment, making your commander more powerful for each one you have attached. Black Blade Reforged, similar to the hammer, makes your commander lethal very fast. Swiftfoot Boots for protection that isn't Shroud because it's very important that we are able to continue to put equipment on our card. Sword of the Animist ramps us when we attack. Thrawn Power Suit grows its wear based on the equipment and auras, and it gives War 2. Just a little bonus. Trailblazer Boots gives non-basic Land Walk, which is basically unblockable at almost any commander table. Loxodon Warhammer gives Lifelink and Trample while pumping the power by 3, so all around pretty good artifact. Maul of Skyclave is important as it gives flying, and it equips for free when it ETBs. Mithril Coat has flash and cheats itself onto legendary creatures, giving its wear indestructible. Nettlesish should be a massive creature in this deck since we are playing so many equipment, and it can turn into equipment itself when needed. Now before I start talking about the swords, I just want to kind of give you an overview of how they work. They will always give +2/+2. They will always give protection from the colors that are featured on them, and they require damage to be dealt, okay? For our first sword, we have Sword of Body and Mind, which mills the opponent 10 cards and makes a wolf token. Not terrible as far as the swords go, but not great. You can never really complain though, because again, the protection each of the swords gives is usually always good. Remember, they can't block with creatures of that color. Sword of Feast and Famine, arguably the best sword. Untap all your lands, make the opponent discard. Sword of Fire and Ice will draw you a card and then shock any target. Sword of Forge and Frontier gives card advantage by exiling the top 2 cards of your library, letting you play them until the end of the turn, and you get an extra land drop. Sword of Hearth and Home blinks a creature and lets you search your library for a basic land card. Sword of Light and Shadow is on the weaker side by only gaining you 3 life and then returning a creature from the graveyard to your hand. Mainly this card is playable because it gives protection from some of the removal heavy colors. Sword of Once and Future lets you surveil and then cast a spell from your graveyard with mana 2 or less for free. While we do have some ways to get stuff out of our graveyard, Sword is pretty lackluster in our deck. Sword of Sinew and Steel is a Super Friend's worst nightmare as it destroys a planeswalker and an artifact. The last part is primarily why it's played though. Destroying artifacts is always useful in commander games. Sword of Truth and Justice puts a counter on a creature and then proliferates, which is nice, and we have Chalice, and technically if we hit with Skrelv, it does turn the poison into a clock. Sword of Vengeance is keyword soup and a power boost. First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Haste is very good reasons to be scared of this equipment. Sword of War and Peace is a last but closely least of the sword series, as damaging your opponents will cause them to lose a life for each card in their hand, and you will gain a life for each card in your hand. Again, oof, not very good. Lastly, Hammer of Nizan is great since it gives indestructible, and then it cheats out the rest of your equipment that you play after it. For the mana base, do what fits your budget best, but feel free to copy the mana base in the deck list posted in the description of this video. The best lands for this deck are Plaza of Heroes since it gives protection, and Microsith Garden since it can copy an artifact we control. There are no combos in this deck, but if you want to include one in your version of the deck, be sure to let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this deck list, and subscribe if you'd like to see more and bigger content in the future. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.